I remember the text like it was yesterday. "We need to talk." That was it. No explanation, no build-up. Just those words, plain and simple. I felt a cold knot in my stomach, like I already knew what was coming but didn't want to admit it. Erica and I had been together for 2 years. Living together, splitting everything, trying to build a life together. And now she wanted to talk. We sat down in the living room of the apartment we shared, the one with the soft gray walls and the mismatched furniture we'd picked out together. Her face was tense, her hands clasped in her lap. She was wearing one of her old, oversized sweaters, the one I liked because it smelled like her. It was the kind of moment you know should feel heavier than it does. But in that instant, it just felt off. "I need space," she said, her voice quiet but firm. "I need to figure out who I am again, outside of this, outside of us." I stared at her, trying to process it. What do you even say to that? I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I thought we were doing okay. Sure, her freelance design work had been all over the place lately, and I'd been picking up more of the financial load. But that didn't feel like a big deal. We were partners, right? "You don't need to figure that out," I said, but it came out weak. "We've been doing fine. We can work through it. We can." "No, Dave," she interrupted, shaking her head. "I need to grow on my own. I need to be alone." Her words hit like a slap, and I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. What could I say? She was already pulling away. I took a breath, the lump in my throat making it hard to swallow. "Okay," I said, trying to sound like I wasn't crushed. "I'll move out. I want you to be happy." The words tasted bitter, but I meant them, even if it didn't feel real. I'd been carrying us financially, emotionally, and now it felt like she was just walking away. We agreed she'd stay in the apartment until next month. She'd get a new place, I'd find somewhere sooner. I didn't argue. I didn't try to change her mind. I just sat there, nodding, pretending I was okay with it. She stood up, her shoulders slumped, and I caught a glimpse of her eyes. There was something there, something she wasn't saying, but I didn't ask. She left the room first, and I was left sitting there, staring at the empty space between us, trying to make sense of it all. The weekend after the breakup, I rented a U-Haul. I didn't waste any time. I loaded up everything I could fit: my office desk, the TV, the kitchen appliances, all the things I'd bought over the years, all the things I'd worked for. I didn't even think about it. I was just done. By the time Erica came home from that self-care workshop, some kind of mindfulness thing she'd signed up for, I was already halfway through the apartment. It was quieter than usual, emptier, the walls feeling hollow somehow. She stepped inside, dropped her bag by the door, and froze when she saw what I'd done. "Dave? What the hell?" she asked, her voice cracking like she was still trying to process what she was seeing. Her eyes darted around the apartment, looking at the empty spaces where our furniture used to be. "Where are you going?" I looked up from the last box I was loading into the truck. "Found a place," I said, like it was no big deal. "You wanted space, right?" Her face went through a quick flash of confusion, like she didn't know how to react at first. Then it changed to something sharper, something harder. Frustration. She blinked, as if the reality of what was happening had finally started to hit her. "You're really doing this?" she asked, voice tight. "Yeah," I said, and the words came out flat. "You said you needed space. I'm giving it to you." She opened her mouth like she was going to argue, but then stopped herself. For a moment, we just stood there in silence. The apartment felt smaller now, with half the furniture gone, the echoes of our time together fading in the air. I kept moving, grabbing the last of my stuff. My stack of books from the living room shelf, the old coffee maker we never used but kept anyway. I could feel her eyes on me, burning a hole in the back of my head, but I didn't look up. I didn't want to. "You can't just leave like this," she said, her voice rising, sounding more like the Erica I used to know. The one who always knew how to twist words, how to make things feel like my fault. I turned to her, holding the box of books in my hands, and shrugged. "You wanted it. Space. Independence. It's all yours now." The words hit her harder than I expected. She stood there, stunned for a second, before her shoulders slumped, the fight draining out of her. She wasn't ready for this. She wasn't ready for me to move on so quickly. But what about the rent? The utilities? We've always split that, she said, voice quiet now, like the weight of what she'd just asked me was starting to crush her. I paused for a beat, glancing at her from across the room. You're gonna figure it out. You always do. The silence between us stretched, thick and awkward. I could tell she was struggling to find something to say, some way to turn this around, but I wasn't giving her the chance. I wasn't going to be dragged back into her mess. She finally just sighed, a mix of frustration and something else. Maybe regret, but I wasn't sure. I didn't care anymore. I thought we could talk about it more, she said, shaking her head like she still couldn't believe I was going through with this. I didn't think you'd just leave. You didn't want to talk about it? I said, setting the box down and grabbing the last few things. You made it clear what you wanted. I'm just respecting it. She didn't respond. She stood there, her arms crossed, like she was trying to hold herself together. She hadn't expected me to move out this quickly, but I wasn't about to stick around waiting for her to change her mind. When I finished loading up the last of my stuff, I glanced over at her one last time. Good luck, Erica, I said. It wasn't a jab or a dig. It was just the truth. I didn't wait for her to say anything else. I just turned and walked out the door, not looking back. I could hear her voice calling after me, but I didn't stop. I had already made my decision. The next day, my phone buzzed constantly. At first, I ignored it, just the usual post-move-out noise. But then I saw the name flashing on the screen, Erica. I almost didn't want to look, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened the first message. This is so childish. I can't believe you're treating me like this. I stared at it for a minute, feeling a mix of anger and disbelief. Was this really happening? She was still trying to play the victim after everything? I set the phone down, rubbing my temples. Then the next message came in. I didn't expect you to act like this. And then more followed, like a chain I couldn't break. How could you just leave? I thought you loved me. You're so selfish. Couldn't help but laugh bitterly. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. She wanted space and I gave it to her. Simple as that. I wasn't the one who asked for a breakup. But somehow I was the one being painted as the villain. Stung, but I wasn't gonna let it drag me back in. I put the phone down and walked away. It didn't end there. Her best friend, Samantha, reached out on social media, writing a post that made me feel like I was a monster. Dave is so selfish. He's been manipulating Erica for years, and now he's just abandoning her when she needs him the most. I stared at the words, my stomach twisting. Manipulating her? The hell? I was the one who'd been pulling more than my weight. I was the one who'd covered bills when Erica's freelance work came up short, who'd kept the rent paid when things got tight. But none of that mattered. To them, I was just the guy who left. It didn't take long for some of my friends to weigh in on my side. Ben and Matt both called me that afternoon, making sure I knew I wasn't alone in this. Dude, you've been more than generous. She's been taking advantage of you for way too long. I nodded even though they couldn't see me. Yeah, I knew they were right, but it still felt like crap. Like no matter what, I was still the bad guy. I spent the rest of the day avoiding my phone. I wasn't ready for more of the same. But that night, just as I was getting ready to crash, Erica's mom called. I could hear the pleading in her voice before she even spoke. Dave, honey, I know things are difficult right now, but Erica's really struggling. She's not doing well. I don't know what she's going to do without you. I took a breath, trying to keep it together. I could feel the pressure in my chest. It was hard, harder than I expected. I knew she was her mother, and I didn't want to sound like an asshole. But I also knew what needed to be done. I'm sorry, Mrs. Harper, but I'm not going to step in. Erica made it clear what she needed, and I'm respecting that. I heard a pause on the other end of the line. Her voice was softer when she spoke again. But she's my daughter. She's lost. She doesn't know how to handle this on her own. I know you want to help her, I said, keeping my tone steady. But she needs to figure it out on her own. I can't be the one to fix everything. The silence stretched for a few beats, and I could almost feel the disappointment through the phone. but there was nothing more to say. I hung up, the weight of it sinking in, but I didn't let it drag me down. The next few days, things started to get clearer. Erica's messages slowed down, but her financial struggles became more apparent. I started hearing from mutual friends that she was behind on rent, not paying her utilities, scrambling to figure out how to keep things together. A small part of me, just a small part, felt vindicated. This was what she'd asked for. Independence. Space. She was facing the consequences now, and I wasn't about to bail her out. I couldn't help but think about it, though. If I was honest with myself, it was more than just satisfaction. It was relief. She had wanted to be free from me, and now she was. But somehow, in the middle of all this, I didn't feel bad. Not the way I thought I would. Because in the end, I gave her exactly what she asked for. And it turned out she wasn't ready for it. A few days later, the phone rang. Erica's name lit up the screen, and for a second, I debated not picking up. But I knew she wasn't calling to chat about old times. I swiped the screen and pressed the phone to my ear, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hey, Dave, I need your help." Her voice was shaky, panicked almost, and hearing that made something twist in my stomach, but I pushed it down. "What's going on?" I asked, keeping it neutral. "I'm behind on rent," she said, voice cracking. "I can't pay the bills. I don't know what to do. My clients are late with payments, and now they're saying they might drop me. I could get evicted, Dave. I don't know how to fix this." I stayed quiet for a second, letting her words hang in the air. The weight of her situation was clear, but I didn't feel the rush of sympathy I expected. Instead, I felt this strange, detached calm. This was her mess, her decision. "I know this is tough," I said slowly, "but you're on your own now. You wanted space. You wanted independence. It's all yours now." She didn't respond right away. For a moment, I thought she might have hung up, but then I heard her take a shaky breath, followed by a burst of frantic words. "No, Dave, that's not fair. You can't just leave me like this. Can't, everything's falling apart. I need you to help me, just this once. Please." I rubbed my forehead, trying to keep my patience. "Erica, you're the one who wanted this. I'm just following through with what you asked for. You can handle this. You always do." Her voice rose, the frustration now mixing with something darker, something desperate. "I can't handle it, Dave. I'm gonna lose everything. You really want to see me fail, don't you? Is that it?" I sighed. "I don't want to see you fail, but you need to take responsibility for what you chose. I gave you the space you asked for. This is the reality of being on your own, and I can't keep saving you." She fell silent, and for a moment, I thought she might be processing what I said. But then, her voice cracked again, sharp and raw. "I might be in legal trouble, Dave. I've got bounce checks, late fees piling up. If I don't pay, they're gonna take me to court. I'll lose everything." I sat down on the edge of my bed, feeling the exhaustion settle in. Part of me wanted to reach out to help. The old Dave would have done it without thinking. But I wasn't that guy anymore. "I'm sorry, Erica, but I can't help," I said, my voice firm, almost cold. "This is exactly what you asked for. Independence. You're gonna have to figure this out on your own." There was a long pause before she spoke again. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do. You're the only one I can turn to." "You have other people," I said, biting back the frustration in my chest. "You're not alone. You'll find a way." "I'm sorry, but I can't be that way for you anymore." I heard her breathe out, maybe trying to hold back tears, but I didn't feel guilty. Couldn't. This was the choice she made. Before I could say anything else, the call ended, and the silence that followed felt thick, heavy, as if the air itself was waiting for me to crack. But I didn't. Just as I set the phone down, another message popped up from Samantha. "You're heartless, Dave. Erica's really struggling. She needs you now, and you're just letting her fall. What kind of person does that?" I read the message, staring at the words for a minute. I could feel the anger bubbling up again, but I didn't let it take over. Instead, I threw the phone face down on the table. I wasn't going to argue with her. I wasn't going to play this game. I'd already made my choice. I couldn't fix Erica. Not anymore. and that was something I had to live with. The next morning, my phone buzzed again. Erica's mom. I let it ring for a few seconds, debating whether to pick up. Part of me knew what was coming, but I didn't want to deal with it. Still, I answered, figuring I couldn't ignore her forever. "Dave, honey, it's me." Her voice was soft, pleading. "I've been talking to Erica. She's really struggling, and I think you need to come back. She needs you. Please, Dave, just fix things. One last time. For her sake." I sat up in bed, rubbing my eyes, trying to shake off the weight of the conversation. I exhaled slowly, a little tired of the endless back and forth. "Mrs. Harper, I can't keep doing this. I've already made my decision." "But she's not herself, Dave. She's lost, and she doesn't know what to do. She's crying every day. I'm begging you for her. You two were good together. Can't you just help her through this?" The guilt started creeping in, but I pushed it back. "I'm sorry, but I can't. She needs to deal with this on her own. She asked for space. She asked for independence. I'm respecting that." There was a long pause, and I could almost hear the frustration building on the other end. "You're making a mistake. She needs you. I don't know how much longer she's going to keep it together." I didn't answer right away. I could feel the weight of her words, but it didn't change anything. "I'm sorry, but I can't fix this. I can't be her safety net anymore." The call ended shortly after that. I put my phone down, the silence filling my small apartment. I'd made the right choice, or at least I kept telling myself that. A few hours later, there was a knock at my door. I wasn't expecting anyone, but when I opened it, there she was. Erica. She looked different somehow. Her hair was messy, and her face was pale, like she hadn't been sleeping. She stood there for a moment, eyes wide, as if she wasn't sure if she should step inside. "Dave, we need to talk," she said, her voice cracking, trying to sound steady but failing. I stepped back, letting her in. I wasn't sure what else to do. She came in, looking around the apartment, taking in the space that felt too small now that she was standing in it. It was clear she hadn't expected me to move on this quickly. She took a deep breath and started talking before I could even say anything. "I've learned my lesson, okay? I'm sorry for everything. I've been thinking about it nonstop, and I know I messed up. Please, Dave. I need you. I can't do this on my own." I didn't say anything at first. I didn't want to. She was good at this. She always knew how to pull at my heartstrings, make me feel like I was the only person who could save her. But this time I wasn't falling for it. She stepped closer, voice rising with urgency. "I swear I've changed, I get it now. I know I made mistakes. I'm not asking for a lot, just for you to help me through this one last time. I can't keep going like this." I shook my head, my hands clenched at my sides. "No, Erica, this isn't just a mistake. This is a pattern. There's always been a pattern. You never took responsibility for your actions. You never gave a damn about how I was carrying us both, financially and emotionally. And now you want me to come back and fix it." Her eyes widened, the guilt and frustration flashing across her face. "I didn't. I'm not saying it's your fault, but please, Dave, I need you. I can't lose everything." I stood up, taking a slow step back, putting some space between us. "You've had plenty of chances to change. You've had plenty of chances to step up and fix things on your own. But you didn't. And now you're asking me to be your backup again? I'm done, Erica." She looked like I'd slapped her, her face crumpling in confusion and hurt. "You don't understand. If you really cared—" "I do care," I interrupted, my voice sharp. "But that doesn't mean I have to keep bailing you out every time things go wrong. You asked for space. You wanted independence. I gave it to you. Now you have to live with it." She stepped back, her eyes brimming with tears, but she wasn't crying yet. She just stared at me, disbelief written all over her face. "I can't believe you're doing this. After everything, this is how you're going to be." I met her gaze, steady, calm. "I'm not doing anything, Erica. I'm just respecting the decision you made. You wanted this. Now you have it." There was a long silence, and then she turned, her shoulders shaking slightly as she walked to the door. She didn't say anything else. She just left. I stood there for a moment, listening to her footsteps fade down the hall. A part of me wanted to feel something: guilt, sadness, regret. But all I felt was relief. It was over. I went back to my couch, staring at the space where she'd been. This time it didn't sting. It just felt done. A few days after Erica left my apartment for good, things took a turn. I started seeing posts pop up on social media, and at first I didn't think much of it. People venting, whatever. But then I saw Erica's name. She was posting about me, and not in a way that made me feel good. It started with a single post. I've spent years in a controlling, manipulative relationship. I was financially abused, used, and discarded once I was no longer needed. I gave everything I could, and this is how he repays me. I've had enough. I read it over and over, the words hitting harder each time. Financially abused? Manipulated? I felt sick to my stomach. I didn't know how to respond at first. How could she say that after everything? After all the bills I paid when her freelance work dried up? After how many times I picked up the slack because she couldn't? Then, a few hours later, I saw Samantha's post. It was even worse. Dave manipulated Erica for years. He kept her on a leash, controlling everything, financially and emotionally. This is disgusting. I can't believe what he did to her. My stomach twisted. Felt like my entire world was turning against me. A few friends reached out in my defense. Ben, Matt, they didn't mince words. She's been using you for years, man. You did more than enough. Don't let them twist this. But it didn't matter. The damage was done. The posts went viral within our social circle, shared and liked by everyone. People I thought were friends were suddenly quiet or siding with Erica. I started getting messages, nasty ones. Some were direct, calling me every name under the sun, while others were more subtle, just like small barbs from people who had no idea what really happened. My reputation was taking a hit. Some of them told me I'd lost any shred of decency. Others said I was a coward for not helping Erica, for letting her fall apart when she needed me. The worst part was how it felt. I was being painted as the villain, the guy who used his girlfriend until she was worthless to him. But I wasn't the one who had walked away. I wasn't the one who had asked for space, for independence. Couldn't let it go. It wasn't just about me anymore, it was about the truth. I had to say something. So I sat down, took a breath, and wrote a post. To everyone who's suddenly an expert on my relationship, Erica asked for space. She asked for independence. I gave it to her. I wasn't her ATM, I wasn't her safety net, and I certainly wasn't trying to control her. I tried to help when I could, but I'm not responsible for her life. She made her choice, and so did I. I'm not the bad guy here. I hit post, then sat back and watched the notifications flood in. Some people backed me up, but the comments still stung. More accusations, more twisted versions of what had happened. I was starting to feel like the whole world was against me. But then something shifted. It was subtle at first, a comment here, a text message there. Someone had leaked the text messages Erica had sent me when we broke up. The ones where she was begging me not to go, telling me she wasn't ready to lose me, telling me she couldn't handle being on her own. It wasn't enough to turn the tide completely, but it helped. People who had been sitting on the fence started to question what Erica had said. Why would she beg for me to stay, then accuse me of manipulating her? They started asking those questions. And I wasn't the only one wondering. I didn't feel vindicated exactly, but I did feel like the truth was finally starting to seep through the cracks of her story. Erica had painted herself as the victim, but those texts, those desperate pleas, showed the real picture. She hadn't been asking for space. She had been asking for me to stay. That didn't fix everything. I still had messages coming in from people who thought I was in the wrong, and it still felt like I was losing something. But it was a start. The narrative was starting to shift, and for once, I wasn't the one left holding the blame. I spent the rest of the day trying to shake off the pressure, not reading every comment or responding to every message. It felt good to finally put my side of the story out there, even if it didn't fix things right away. It was a start. I was done with the guilt, done with the manipulation, and I was done being the bad guy in her story. I just wanted peace. It's been a few weeks since I posted that message. Things were quieter now. The storm had passed, and while I was still getting the occasional comment or message, the heat had died down. But that didn't mean Erica's situation had improved. If anything, it had gotten worse. I started hearing through mutual friends that her financial problems were snowballing. Apparently, she'd been forced to move back in with her parents. Her dad was pissed about the bounce checks, and I could only imagine the conversations going on behind closed doors. There was something sad about it, something almost poetic about how quickly things had unraveled for her. I didn't feel bad, though. Not really. I felt indifferent, I guess. There was a time when I would have been the one trying to help, running to her rescue, fixing whatever she broke. But not anymore. The woman who had made me feel like I was her lifeline, her safety net, was now struggling on her own, and it wasn't my problem. From what I heard, she'd been scrambling to find another source of income. Her freelance career had stalled. Clients were pulling back, or they weren't paying on time, or she just couldn't keep up. Whatever the reason, she was stuck. She ended up taking a job at a retail store. It wasn't glamorous, but it was work, I guess. I didn't feel satisfaction from that. I didn't want to see her fail, but I wasn't going to step in and fix things for her. She was the one who pushed me out. She was the one who wanted to grow and find herself. Now she had what she asked for. One afternoon, I got a message from Ben. "Dude, you gotta hear this. Someone leaked a recording of Erica and her new boyfriend talking about you. It's all over the place." I could feel my heart skip a beat. I clicked on the link he sent me, not sure what I was about to hear. The conversation was a mess of complaints. Erica ranting about her past with me. She was talking to her boyfriend, someone I'd never met, but I could hear the bitterness in her voice as she recalled our relationship. "She always expected me to fix everything," she said in the recording. "He was my backup. I never had to actually stand on my own. Whenever things got tough, he was right there. And when I didn't need him anymore, he just left. I should have known it was all about him feeling needed." I leaned back in my chair, the weight of those words hitting me harder than I expected. I wasn't sure how to feel. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated. See, this was what I'd been talking about all along. She hadn't learned a damn thing. But another part of me just felt empty. This wasn't how I wanted it to go. I didn't want her to turn me into the villain in her story. The truth was, I had been a fool. I had given too much of myself to someone who wasn't willing to give anything back. I'd been there for her in ways that should have been reciprocated, but it wasn't enough. And now, she was using our past to make herself look like the victim, twisting the narrative. But it wasn't going to work anymore. I set the phone down and leaned back, taking a slow breath. I had to admit it, I was done. Done with the drama, done with the games. I didn't want to fight anymore. I didn't want to keep explaining myself to people who refused to see things from my side. I had a new life now, a new routine, one that didn't involve Erica or her baggage. I was living in a small apartment, but it felt right. It was quiet. I could actually breathe. No more feeling like I had to carry her weight. No more second-guessing myself. My friends, the real ones, were still there. They didn't need me to explain myself. They already knew what had happened. The weight that used to sit heavy on my chest was gone now. I didn't feel guilty anymore. I didn't feel anything but relief. There were moments when I still thought about her, about how things used to be, but those moments were getting fewer and farther apart. And that was okay. As for Erica, she was still struggling. I could see the updates on social media, pictures of her working her retail job, her occasional status updates about being stuck and figuring things out. I didn't comment. I didn't react. That wasn't my problem anymore. I had peace now. I had the space I needed to rebuild. And for the first time in a long time, I was exactly where I needed to be, far away from her chaos. A few weeks later, just as I was starting to settle into my new routine, Erica reached out again. Her name popped up on my phone, and I thought about ignoring it, but something, maybe curiosity, maybe the old habits, made me swipe to answer. "Dave," she started, her voice shaky. "I know things are messed up. I know I hurt you. I'm sorry. I I've been thinking a lot about everything. I didn't respond right away. She wasn't the same confident Erica that used to walk into a room like she owned it. This version of her sounded small, almost like she was trying to piece herself together. I'm in a bad place, Dave, she continued. This job, it's not what I thought it would be. I'm struggling, and I know I screwed up everything with you. I didn't mean to hurt you, not like that. I was so focused on myself, I didn't see what was happening to us. I listened to her, trying not to feel anything. She sounded broken, like she was really trying to reach me, but I wasn't about to fall for it again. I knew how quickly she could turn it on when things got tough. It wasn't the first time she tried to manipulate me with her emotions. I've learned, Dave, she said, almost pleading now. I really have. I'm trying to do things on my own, but it's hard. I don't have anyone else to turn to. I almost laughed, but I kept it together. You've always known how to turn to people when you needed something, I said flatly. You just never learned to stand on your own, and now you're asking me to be your backup again. That's not happening. I've changed, she said quickly. I'm not the same person anymore. I'm learning to be independent, really I am. I could hear the desperation in her voice, but I wasn't buying it. The last time she'd been desperate, she'd begged me not to leave. Now she was acting like she had it all figured out, like I was supposed to believe that her life was suddenly on track. But I wasn't fooled. You said that last time, I told her, my voice cold. You said you wanted space to grow, to be independent. I respected that. But every time things get tough, you come back, asking for help. You can't keep doing that, Erica. There was silence on the other end, and for a moment I thought she might hang up. But she didn't. Instead, she let out a long, slow breath. I get it, she said softly, but there was no conviction in her voice. I just thought, maybe we could try again. I really miss what we had. I'm not the same person, Dave. I've learned. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. No, you can't keep coming back when it's convenient for you. You don't get to pick and choose when you need me and when you don't. That's not how this works. She didn't respond at first. I could hear her breathing, and for a second, I wondered if she was going to cry. But I didn't feel bad. I wasn't that person anymore. I wasn't the one who would drop everything just because she said the right words. Get your life together, Erica, I said, my voice firm now. You've got to stop pulling me back into your mess. I'm done. I've moved on. There was another long pause, and I could almost hear her processing what I was saying. I waited, but I didn't expect anything to change. And then, finally, she spoke. Okay, she whispered. I get it. I didn't feel a rush of relief, but I did feel something settle inside me. She wasn't going to change. Not for me, anyway. And I wasn't going to keep hoping for it. I hung up the phone and set it down on the table, staring at it for a moment. Erica had been a huge part of my life, but I couldn't keep letting her drag me back into the same cycle of guilt and manipulation. A few minutes later, I heard the front door of my apartment building open and close, followed by the sound of footsteps in the hallway. Erica was gone again, and this time I knew she wasn't coming back. I sat there for a while, just breathing, letting it all settle. There was no guilt, no sadness, just peace. A few months had passed since Erica's last attempt to worm her way back into my life, and things had calmed down. I'd settled into a new routine, and it felt good, peaceful, even. I was dating someone now, someone who was independent, who didn't look to me as a safety net. Her name was Lisa, and she had her own life together. We didn't need to lean on each other in the way Erica and I had, and that felt right. We were just enjoying the simple things. No drama, no guilt. Just two people who were in a healthy, balanced relationship. One afternoon, I was in the grocery store, browsing through the produce aisle, when I spotted her. Erica. She was standing by the tomatoes, scanning the shelves like she was lost, her face drawn and pale. She didn't notice me right away. I could see the exhaustion in her posture, the way she fumbled with the vegetables, like it was all just too much for her to handle. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. She looked so tired, so beaten down by whatever life had thrown at her. But then, the feeling passed, just as quickly as it came. I could have walked up to her, said something, but I didn't. I didn't want to. I wasn't that person anymore. I wasn't the one who would rush in to save her when she couldn't save herself. I kept walking past her, not slowing down, not even looking back. She saw me, though. I could tell. She didn't say anything. She just watched me walk by, her eyes following me like she was waiting for me to stop, to turn around. But I didn't. I kept going. I didn't feel anything in that moment. Not pity, not anger, not even sadness. I just felt nothing. And that felt like a relief in itself. The next few days, I noticed that Erica's social media presence had gone quiet. No more passive-aggressive posts, no more crying about how everything was unfair. She'd gone radio silent. I didn't ask around, but from what I heard through the grapevine, she was still struggling. Her freelance work was barely making ends meet, and her personal life was a mess. I didn't feel satisfied by it, though. It wasn't my problem anymore. I had moved on. I'd built a life for myself that didn't include the toxic mess of our past. It wasn't perfect, but it was mine. I felt stable for the first time in a long while. I wasn't drowning in someone else's chaos. I wasn't holding everything together for someone who couldn't hold themselves up. And that felt good. I had no idea where Erica's life was going, and I didn't care to find out. I didn't wish her bad things. I didn't hope for her to fail. I just let go. For the first time, I was truly at peace. And I knew, without a doubt, that I had done what was right for me, no matter what anyone else thought or said. That chapter was closed, and it wasn't coming back.